is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success.
But if someone else starts this company and it's not me, I will regret that until I'm dead. Like, that is how much I cared about this company and this idea. I knew that I would carry that forever. And I just felt this like fire of like, that cannot happen.
Hey, Dream Drivers. Welcome to episode 77 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And that voice that you heard is Melody McCloskey, who's the co-founder and CEO of StyleSeat, the leading destination for booking beauty and wellness appointments. Now, if you've ever booked a hairstylist, a manicurist, a barber online, you probably have heard of or used StyleSeat. I know I have, and I've always admired the brand. I've admired Melody as a businesswoman. And so it was just really, I was really honored when she said yes to coming on the show. And there was just so much that I wanted to ask her. I didn't get to ask her, but the questions that we did ask were still insightful. And I know that you guys will enjoy this episode. Some of the things that we talk about is the art of perfecting your hustle, why Melody sat on the idea of StyleSeat for 2 years. And that's one of the parts of the interviews that I thought to be really, really important, because I think a lot of us sit on our ideas, right? A lot of us sometimes are so hesitant, don't think we have what it takes to get started. And you might be sitting on an idea that just needs some fuel, that just needs some momentum. So when Melody talks about that part of her journey, make sure you listen in. Other things that we discuss is how to know when your idea is special, so why you have to validate and survey your test market, some basic business fundamentals that you really need to understand. Melody also talks about some tips for raising capital and fundraising, and why obsession and passion for your vision is important. I hope that you guys enjoy hearing her story and just are encouraged to act on your ideas that you may be sitting on, because, hey, you might have the next $1 million idea, next $1 billion company. So before we get into the episode, make sure you are following us on social at Dreams and Drive across the board, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us and engage online, and use the hashtag Dreams and Drive if you want to search what other people are saying about the episodes. If you want today's show notes, just go to dreamsanddrive.com and click on episode 77. Also, make sure to check out our free resources at dreamsanddrive.com/free if you want to download and access some really good tip sheets and worksheets that can help you in your business or brand. There's lots of things up there, so I encourage you to go check it out and browse for yourself. Enjoy. Make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening so that you get reminders when we have new episodes being released. You guys are going to love this episode. I'm pretty sure you'll learn a lot as well. And I'll talk to you soon. Hi, Melody. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Dreams and Drive.
Thanks for having me. This is so exciting.
As I was saying earlier before we started recording, I'm a fan of StyleSeat, and this is going to be a fangirl moment for me. So you guys, please, listening in, don't be creeped out if I sound uber excited when I ask you questions.
Thank you. That is so amazing. It like literally brings me so much joy to hear that.
So one of the things I love to start all our interviews with is going back in time. So close your eyes, Melody, and tell me, imagine Melody as an 8-year-old. What was inspiring you back then?
Oh my gosh. I was a dancer. I danced ballet for 10 years. So that was a huge thing that I loved. Anything dance or ballet or music just moved me, and I became obsessed with. So everything around music, everything around, like music videos way back in the day were so mind-blowing to me.
Making the video, MTV, I love that.
Oh my God. Like back when MTV was only music videos. I don't know if I was 8. I have no idea how old I was, but that, like, I used to just stare at the TV just daily, constantly, never ending, because I loved music and I loved watching the visuals to music and how people moved, and like that was just so inspiring to me.
So did you, when you were back then, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Let's see. for a while, I wanted to be a teacher, and then I wanted to be a news reporter. I thought that was very important and cool to talk about the important stuff that's happening in the world. And then I wanted to be a surgeon. I thought that was cool. And then for a while, I wanted to be a music producer. I only really learned about entrepreneurship probably in high school, maybe, in any real way, and did not think that I would be able to do it. Like, thought it was so cool, so exciting, the most exciting thing, but not something that I would ever be able to do because I used to be incredibly shy. And the idea of like hiring people and telling them what to do and raising money and, having a dream and pursuing it around a business seemed too hard and too crazy and too big. So it wasn't until much later that I actually went down that path.
So I wrote down the things that you said you wanted to be. You said music producer, teacher, news reporter, surgeon. And this may be a far reach, but if you think about the themes there, right? Surgeon, you're fixing things. So you're fixing problems, right? News reporter, you're figuring out what the problems are. And then teaching and producing is you're kind of like molding and figuring out how to make it all work together. So those might have been like you never know. Maybe it was good that you had those first inklings and then it evolved into what you're doing now in some ways, right?
That is so interesting, and it's literally never occurred to me ever in my life until you just said it. This is like a therapy class for me.
You heard it first. No, I've, through all the interviews that I've done, I always like to start them out that way because I think sometimes we don't even realize that we are kind of setting ourselves up from our earliest interest for what we'll probably do later on in life. Even if there's not a direct connection, sometimes there are themes that kind of show up later. So, you never know. So what college did you go to again, Melody?
I went to UC Davis, which is in California.
All right. So you weren't, what did you study?
I studied French and international relations, which is kind of like politics.
So still no interest in entrepreneurship at that point?
I think I was VP of the computer club in high school. Mm-hmm. I was very, very interested. All my friends were software engineers. I was very interested in that, but because I wasn't a software engineer, I just didn't think it was an option. So I was like, well, that's a huge dream, but I'm going to push that aside because I'm not allowed to do that.
Wow.
I love speaking French. I love languages. So that was kind of an easy one. And then there was no business degree. So it was like, all right, whatever. I'll just learn a little bit about the world. But I did not love college. I hated every single moment of it. And I graduated early. I could not have gotten out of there faster.
What did you hate about it?
I just couldn't. Every second I was there, in my mind, it felt like a waste of time. Because I knew I wasn't going to be like a professional French person. So I didn't feel like every day was getting me towards something. Like I felt this hunger and this like energy and this need, this drive that I didn't really know how to channel. And so every day going to class and learning about, how we messed up some international relations situation was just like, okay, I get it. This is helpful for knowledge generally, but like, I want to move forward in my life. And I don't get how this is going to take me there. So I hated school. When I hear about how people loved college and it was an incredible experience, I'm like jealous a little bit because I didn't feel that way.
I sometimes have that same, I didn't hate college, but sometimes I look back and I've been out of college 4 years now. And it's like, what did I actually learn in college? And when I think about it, most of the things that I retained were things I read on the internet, right? Like things that I actually wanted to learn, but I don't actually remember what I learned in college. So good thing I was on financial aid, because if my parents actually had to pay everything, like pay how much Princeton actually costs, I feel like it could have been, not a waste of money, but it could have been an investment that I probably could have went to like another school that was cheaper. But okay, so out of college, you graduated early. What was next? And how did you start developing what your career was going to look like at this point in time?
So Yeah, so my junior year of college, I went to the career counselor in like a full, just like panic. And I said, I don't know what I want to do. And it was a really, really tough job market. There was, so many of my friends were unable to get jobs and really struggling. And we were all setting ourselves up for working at Pizza Hut even after we graduated. And I asked the counselor, what should I do? There's nothing that I want to do. I don't know where to channel my energy. And she said, well, you're a girl and a lot of girls get into PR and I think that you should try that. And I swear to God, that's how the conversation went.
Such great, insightful advice.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. And I didn't really understand. She's like, well, it's just good to learn how to communicate. And that's what PR is. So that is the most direction I had. And so I actually ended up, my last year of school, I took my full load of courses in 2 days. So I was going to school from like 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. or something crazy. And then 3 days a week, I was commuting to San Francisco from Davis, California. So it was 2.5 hours each way every day. Yes. And so I would like leave my house at 5:45 and I got an internship at a PR company, just like a tiny little boutique firm that paid me minimum wage. And I worked 3 days a week. So that was my okay, well, if I don't know what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can figure it out before I graduate so that by the time I graduate, I know if this is something that's interesting to me. And so to say it was a lot of work is like hilarious. It was
PR
insane.
Or the commuting? Just
my schedule. Like I was basically waking up at 5 every single day and then, getting home at like 9 or 10 and just being exhausted. But I worked at a PR studio and I was horrible at it. But what I ended up doing is we had a couple of tech clients, startup clients, and I loved those accounts so much that I actually became friends with the people that worked at those companies. And because they were small companies, the CEO of one of those companies, and he ended up hiring me full time. So I was able to get a job at a startup with no product experience or engineering experience, just recently out of school.
Was this the current TV or was this something else?
No, this was it was a video startup in politics. It's based out of the UK. It was just kind of a little scrappy, didn't end up going anywhere. But what it did is it gave me product management experience. So I worked with the engineers on the product and the product management process and ended up getting the experience that allowed me to get the job at Current TV, where I then had a much more senior role. And that kind of set me up for the rest of the trajectory of my career.
So at this point in time, what skills do you think you were really honing in on and really perfecting?
Oh my God, hustle, number one. It doesn't matter if you don't know what you want to do. Just pick a direction and go in it and put yourself out there. This PR firm was like, we're not going to hire anyone less than or more than, $7 an hour or whatever it was. And I was like, sounds great. I will drive 5 hours a day. I took the train. I had to transfer trains once, and then I had to walk 2 miles to get to this office every single day. It was insane. But I was like, I'm going to do all of this because I want to know if, I want to get ahead. I want to know if this is where I want to be in life, and I want to get career experience as soon as I can and meet as many people as I can so that I can, discover what I want to do because I didn't know.
That's so important, that especially in the beginning, right? Because I feel like if you have that hustle in the beginning, you're also just open to absorbing all the things that you're learning as well.
Yes, and meeting people and learning what successful people do and how they spend their time and how the world works, right? Because when you first get out of school, you don't know how business works, and you're so intimidated by everything right? Like, how do I build a resume? How do I interview well? What types of careers do I want? What type of environment do I want to work in? You just have no idea. So you have to put yourself out there and just soak everything up like a little sponge. And then the more you know, the more you can start to steer your own course towards something that makes you happy.
So tell me about the day that you first realized that you had an idea, the StyleSeat idea. What happened?
You know what? I had the idea. Everyone goes like, oh, it came to you one day and then you started the company. Like, no, I knew I wanted to start a company. And back in the day, there were all of my friends. I realized I gravitated towards people who have big ideas, are kind of nuts, like don't care about the rules, just sort of want to figure stuff out, and to varying degrees of success. A bunch of them were totally unsuccessful, just hadn't done it yet. But I loved those types of people. And that taught me something. Like, okay, I turn on when I'm around these types of people. So I want to do this more. And so I loved my friends that were starting companies. I was in love with what they were doing and that type of lifestyle of like, everything's unknown and we're figuring it out every day and we're all broke and like, this is fun. I loved that. And, but I didn't think I could do it. Because I was like, well, they're all brilliant and insane. They've all gone to Ivy League schools. They all, have done so much more than I have. They're smarter than me. They're all engineers. And so I came up with the idea for StyleSeat, and I sat on it for 2 years because every time I would get excited and start to plan more, this voice would come into my head that was like, well, but you can't do it. But you're not smart enough. But, well, stop dreaming because it's never going to happen. And it wasn't until 2 years after I originally thought about the idea that I finally had the courage to step up and say, screw it, I'm going to do this.
How did you find that courage? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of us may often feel like we may have these ideas, but we don't ever get to that point where we finally take action. So what do you think was the thing that really helped you move the needle and put the pedal, put your foot on the pedal on your dreams?
Well, naturally, I'm an overthinker. So I like to think through all of the possibilities for success and all of the possibilities for failure. Like, that's just where my brain goes. And finally, one day I woke up and I had been dreaming about it, or I was like thinking about it while I was cooking breakfast. And I realized, wait, I've been sitting on this for 2 years and I'm obsessed with it. It's not going away, right? But I'm too scared to move forward. So I'm like a loser. Like, why can't I figure this out? And I realized, it like just occurred to me so simply. I realized that actually I am more fearful that someone else will start this company and it's not me than if I started and fail. If I start, what's the worst that can happen? I fall on my face. Everyone sees I'm a failure. My mom, my parents are like, oh, and, like my friends kind of laugh at me and whatever. Like, my enemies will laugh. Like, that's it. That's all. People will see it. But if someone else starts this company and it's not me, I will regret that until I'm dead. Like, that is how much I cared about this company and this idea. I knew that I would carry that forever. And I just felt this like fire of like, that cannot happen. And the second I realized, wait, I'm more scared of missing out than I am of failing. That's when all of a sudden I felt this freedom. It was like, oh, okay, well, if that's the case, then now I'm going to take all of this effort that I've put into being scared and doubting myself. And now that's just going to go into starting the company because like I've decided. And then it became really clear and easy.
That's so interesting that you said that. How did you know your idea was special? Because you know how sometimes sometimes we have ideas, but we know that they're just ideas that are sitting with us, but you knew that this idea was something that you had to act on, right? Like, how did you start validating the idea? Or maybe I should just ask you, what came next? How did you put that effort in next?
I started having conversations. So I knew that I want to book beauty online. Like, I just want to do it. And I didn't know anything about the beauty industry. I was super broke. I had no money. Like I'd never spent $100 on a haircut, right? Ever in my life. And the idea of finding a stylist and booking an appointment terrified me because, again, I was like shy and I couldn't go to the super fancy salon, but it was impossible for me to find someone that wasn't horrible to cut my hair. Like that process was just too hard. And what I realized is I'm a smart woman. Like I want to know who is the best stylist for my price range that's reasonably close to me. I want to see photos of their work. I want to see someone who's cut curly hair, right? Who's done, I think I had black hair at the time. Jesus. Now I'm blonde, whatever. So like who can specialize in the type of balayage that I want or whatever. And I want to be able to book them. Like I, as a modern woman, should be empowered to make that decision. I shouldn't have to guess and like walk into a salon and see if they're good. You know what I mean? And so I realized if I want this, probably other people want it. So I started asking girlfriends and, validated that. And then I had like 50 conversations with beauty professionals. And I talked to independent stylists, that worked out of small locations. I talked to the biggest, fanciest salon owners in San Francisco. I spoke to makeup artists. I spoke to nail technicians, barbers, and just asked them how they run their business. And more than anything, what their business goals were. Like, how do you run your business right now? And, what's your ultimate goal? And what I found is that all of them want to make more money. They want to be more successful, but few of them really knew how to do it. Like they didn't know the path. And when I would ask them questions about like, what do you think about CRM? And what do you think about online booking? And how do you figure out your pricing? Like, how do you decide that? The answers were always, I don't know what that is.
What is what?
CR what? Or like, I don't know. I guess the pricing. And all of those things became really exciting to me because what I had done at Current TV was a lot of modeling and financial forecasting and sort of just good business practices about how to run, a piece of that business. And those same principles can be applied to any company, right? Even a barber's business. So I love business fundamentals. And I realized that these professionals who are creatives, they're passionate about it. They just want to really focus on their art and their clients and being artists. And so it seemed like that combined with the fact that it's a really big industry made me realize, like, I think that I don't know, but I think there's an interesting opportunity here.
So what were some of the basic business fundamentals that you learned at Current? And I'm just asking that because I think people listening in may just want to know, like, what were some of those core things that you think any professional needs to have in order, or any entrepreneur really needs to understand in order to be successful?
Yeah, basic things like, what is your business? How do you differentiate yourselves from your competitors? Right? What's your secret sauce? How do you market that secret sauce? How do you get more customers? What are your acquisition funnels and the ways in which you get new customers? How do you keep the customers that you already have? Things like, really basics like email marketing. Email marketing campaigns is a science. People have been doing it forever. There's no reason why a barber setting up his business for the first time should have to learn about that. So why don't we give you something that's really simple and easy, and actually we can have it send itself for you and you don't even have to worry about it, and it's going to grow your business. I think what I really wanted to do was build tools and fundamentals that are true for so many businesses and make them automatic for our customers so that they didn't have to focus on that. They could focus on what they cared about.
So then, okay, so I just wanted to ask you that because I personally was interested too. So you had this idea, you asked the professionals. So how did you start forming the company? Because you were actually building a platform, right? And you didn't have beauty experience. You weren't necessarily a coder. So how did that all come together? Yes,
I had literally no idea what I was doing. I had worked with software engineers at this point for maybe 5 years through my previous jobs. Mm-hmm. So I did know about the software process.
Okay.
But I called up a friend and I was like, do you have a lawyer that I could use? Because I feel like I should do some paperwork stuff if I want to start a company. I found one of my friends was the main designer for Current TV. I got him super drunk one day after work, and I was like, by the way, I have a favor to ask of you. After like 3 drinks in, right, we're drinking these giant pints of beer, and I said, I have a dream. I'm obsessed with it. I want to start a company. Here's my vision. Like, I just laid it on him, and I said, I cannot breathe. I'm so excited about this. I'm obsessed with this. I would love if you would give me, 10 hours of your time over the next 3 weeks, because I want you to design the entire thing. And here's sketches of what every single page is that I'd like for you to design. And here's all the images I love, and here's all the inspiration. Like, I plopped a book in front of him and just like walked him through it. And he was basically like so overwhelmed plus flattered that I'd asked him, because I was just like, you're the best designer. You're so incredible. Everyone else is horrible, right? It was like flattery plus I'd done all this homework plus he was drunk, and he was sort of like, sure, I'll do this for you for free. So he did that. And then I went to Craigslist, and I said, I need someone, an engineer, who will code my website for free. Here's what they need to do, right? Just like high level. Mm-hmm. I will give you equity in my company that I can't tell you about. It's like stealth startup.
Whoa.
Which is so funny. And this guy responded, and his name is Tyler. He was an early engineer at Google. He left. He had made a bunch of money. He had an airplane and like some spare time. And he was like, I don't really want to work anymore, but I want to work on fun projects. So I'll totally do this for you. So he let me work out of his house. And I had my little like designs, and I basically got the prototype up and running. And from that, I was able to find a technical co-founder. And I was able to find a couple other people to make this come to light before we raised a single penny of funding.
So did you launch it? What was that launch phase like? Or the pre-launch, I should say.
Yeah, we had a prototype that was working. And once we had close to a prototype that was working, I went to an angel investor friend of mine, and I said, I want to do this. Like, this is my dream. And he said, I think he gave me $10,000. Which was enough for me. I had like a couple $1,000s saved away in my bank account because I was staying in what was, I think, technically a closet in a home with roommates I found on Craigslist that I paid $400 a month in rent for. So like over the year and a half that I lived there, I just saved a little bit of money every single month. So I had a couple $1,000s saved away, and that allowed me to quit my job and live on, it was like $1,500 a month I lived on. It was so ridiculous.
And you were in where were you living at this point?
San Francisco.
What? Isn't it like one of the most expensive places in the U.S. to live?
I took the bus. I literally ate beans out of a can. Like, I was like, this business will be how I get myself out of this situation. And I just didn't care. It was like the most unglamorous, horrific lifestyle ever, but I loved every second of it because we were building something that I believed in, and I had people working on something that I had envisioned, and it was so thrilling. And we ended up, I had a technical co-founder at this point. We ended up working and bootstrapping the business for about a year and a half. So a year and a half's worth of expenses got put on my 3 credit cards. And like totally went into debt before I raised our first round of capital, and we were able to actually start to hire a team and grow the business.
So we are going to take a quick break from the episode so that we can do a listener question and answer. So this question is actually coming from a listener, Samantha, and she filled out the Dreams and Drive listener feedback survey. So thank you, Samantha. So her question is, what do you feel was the best tool when it came to getting more traffic to your podcast? So that is a great question, Samantha. And I think one of the best ways that I was able to increase traffic to the podcast was when guests actually shared it with their audiences. And especially if that guest had a sizable audience. That was a great way for me to reach a new audience who then subscribe and then share the episodes with others. Another thing that helped me grow traffic was when I got featured on the iTunes podcast homepage. That definitely, I remember it was episode 32 with Jeff and Kalisa. after that episode, that's when my podcast went to another level. And then I had another feature, which was the episode with Yolanda Ross, and that helped bring more traffic just because getting visibility on iTunes will always help. Being featured in the iTunes Black Voices in Business category, and also being featured on the iTunes Black Experience page during Black History Month was so crucial. Something else that I see, because I check my Google Analytics and I check the referral traffic, is the byline. So the guest posts that I was doing on other people's blogs. So when I wrote a how-to article on podcasting for exonicole.com, that brought in a lot of traffic. When I write articles on Madame Noir and in my bio, I link to Dreams and Drive, that leads to traffic. Something else that led to traffic is when I cross-published the Lori Swank interview on MadameNoir.com. And so I said, if you want to hear the full interview, click here to that link. Got a lot of referral traffic from that. You really have to experiment and find out what is best for your brand. I think that getting more social and just interacting with people and having them share, getting in hashtags and interacting with people's hashtags, that's going to get more people who are listening to and being interested in the podcast. Those were probably the main ways, and I think you can apply that stuff to any other platform that you're trying to grow, whether it be a podcast, a blog, a YouTube channel. You have to get out there and engage, and you have to figure out ways to direct referral traffic. So if you're guest posting, make sure all of your posts have a mini one-liner at the end that link back to your site or your podcast, wherever it is that you're trying to promote. Get your guests to share as well. That's one of the reasons why I do interviews. It's because it's an easy way to grow your audience. You're reaching now the audience of that guest. So now you can combine audiences. They get to promote their stuff with your brand. You get to promote your brand with their audience. It's a win-win-win. And I think at the end of the day, you want to make sure that with time you're getting better. Make sure that you're focusing on providing the best value that you can to your listeners. So one of the things that I have tried to do over the past year of growing the podcast is making sure that I'm asking the questions that you guys want, that I'm really understanding who it is that a dream driver really is. What are their desires? What are their hopes? What are their wants? How can I ask our guests questions that will then resonate with the listeners? It's not about you. It's about the people that you're serving. It's about filling a need. It's about solving a problem. And when you really focus in on that, I think naturally you'll grow. So yeah, those were the key things that I did to help grow the podcast over the past few months. So one more thing before we get back to the episode is if you want to sponsor a Dreams and Drive podcast, just email me, Raina@dreamsanddrive.com. This can also be a part of the show where we can share your message. So if you're an entrepreneur, a brand, a business is looking to reach our Dream Driver audience, email me, Raina@dreamsanddrive.com, and we can talk some more. All right, let's get back to the episode. So with raising money, because I feel like that's something that women especially, I know I've listened to a lot of your interviews, and that's been something that you realize it's a challenge, especially to sell the idea of a beauty platform to people who don't really care. Like I think you were saying that most of the VCs were all bald. They had no use for this type of platform. What are some tips that you can give that you wish you had before you went into funding or looking for funding for your business?
So I wish that I wish I went out earlier. I was too nervous to fundraise. And at that point, a year and a half in, it was like, I know how to eat from beans out of a can. I know how to live on nothing. Let me give myself one more month, before I think about this. And what I should have done is just raised earlier. I also wish that I had built relationships with investors before I went out. We ended up raising for the first round just from angels. So a lot of these people were just my friends who were sort of like, I don't know about this whole beauty thing. I don't know if this little website you're building is going to be something, but you're nuts and you're going to build something out of this. I don't think I'm going to lose money on this. That's essentially what all my friends kind of told
nuts?
Me. And I was like, great, I'll take it. I'll take your money. I don't care. And so that is how we got off the ground, was through angel investors as opposed to VCs. The climate's different now than it was before.
Do you have to pay angel investors back? Is it what's the difference?
The difference is that they're people instead of financial institutions. So angel investors invest their own money, And VCs invest money that LPs have given them. So these limited partners, which can be universities, it can be, big organizations, insurance companies that just have a ton of capital that they have to park somewhere to make returns, right? Because if you're an insurance company and you have, let's say, I don't know, $6 billion, like, you're not going to put it in the bank. You're going to put it in different places to sort of try and earn some sort of return on it until you need to use it again. So that's where VCs get their capital. And VCs have certain expectations and certain thesis, like a thesis that they have going into it. Angel investors invest because they love the person, they love companies, they want you to be successful. So it's a different type of investor.
Okay, I get what you're saying. So the angel investor model worked better for you in the long run.
Exactly. Okay. And we only raised, for the first little bit, we raised $700,000. So like a VC, let's say a VC fund has, I don't know, between $100 million and $400 million in their fund that they raise, right? And they'll raise several of those funds over the course of a couple of years. They have so much money that they have to send to places that they're not going to go write a $50,000 check to a little company and pay attention to that company. Like, that's not worth their time. Versus angel investors can write a $25,000 check. And it can be worth their time because that, depending on how wealthy they are, that can be a decent part of their portfolio. So what's great about it is you get smaller checks from people, and you get their time, you get their help in building the company, which is more important than capital.
What angel investor really played a significant role in helping you shape StyleSeat? I mean, you don't have to name them, but maybe what lesson or what advice, what resource did they bring that really helped you guys grow?
We were very lucky because the first two angel investors that we had were the first two founders of Uber.
Oh, wow.
So that was very lucky for us. And I think what both of those guys taught me, because they were my friends, right? These are like friends that I knew from well before that company was started. Hustle is the number one thing. Like, do not wait for permission. Do not take things personally when people tell you no. Like, come up with an idea, make sure that idea is better than anyone else's, and work as hard as you possibly can to make it true. And it's going to take 999 no's before you get a yes, but all you need is one yes.
That's great advice. And how did you put that, make sure that your idea is better than anyone else into practice? Because you had the idea, but how did you work on perfecting what StyleSeat meant to the consumer and to the professional using it?
I was obsessed. I was literally obsessed with this for so many years. And I was obsessed with what I wanted personally as a customer. But I was also obsessed with, it made me mad that hairstylists, and this is less so now, but back in the day, were considered in the business world like second-class citizens. Like, you talk to a fancy founder and you talk about hairstylists, and then they're not like, oh, great. Like I hate that small business owners, it makes me angry. It's not just that I hate it, I'm pissed about it. The small business owners are considered second-class business owners. These are people who, my dad always had a small business. My mom started small businesses. These are like my family. And they are passionate about something, and that's why they start the business. It's not because they want to make millions and millions of dollars and, ride around and do fancy things and fancy cars. They do it because they have a passion and because they want to build their life around that passion. And it makes me angry that because they don't have the fundamentals, they don't have access to a lot of, whether it's business education or business tools to be successful, that they can't be as successful. They work as hard as everyone else in the world. And it's hard. It's a challenge. And so that fire of, I want to make for barbers, for hairstylists, makeup artists, like I want to make them more successful. I want to help them support their families doing what they love. That was a really important mission for me, and I took that incredibly seriously. And so like obsessing about the tools and how they could help, how they could get better, what the next feature would be that we would release, putting that in front of stylists, and taking that process very seriously was extremely important to me, because it's like, hey, this is a fun project. Like I'm starting a company. How funny is that? Like that's one thing, but also the bigger we started to get, the more stylists we had on the platform, the more they started putting their business on our product. That's when I started to realize, oh shit, like we now owe it to these people to be really great, because they're relying on us now to grow their business. And all of a sudden it became like way bigger than my little project. It was like, oh, okay, this is actually important to people now, so I can't mess this up.
And I think what you also said is important is the whole idea of having that mission that really drives you, that being your why, because I think that what helped fuel you. I'm pretty sure there must have been times where you were like, oh my God, screw StyleSeat. Can I just do something easier? You know what I mean? And then I feel also, I mean, I don't work for StyleSeat, but I feel like if you're articulating this must be something else that you probably use with your employees and creating a culture of empowerment, right? Because that's Absolutely. What I'm reading this as. You know, you're empowering these small business owners to pursue their dreams and use your platform while doing so.
Absolutely. It is like I tell every engineer that gets hired at this company, every customer support person, anyone, you don't have to give a shit about beauty. I don't care. But what I do care about is that you live and breathe and obsess about these small business owners and their happiness. Because if we can bring like one more client a month to these businesses, that makes a big difference in their bottom line, right? Mm-hmm. Like StyleSeat grows the average professional's revenue by 70%. We almost double their revenue in the first year. That is insane. And I am so proud of that number. And we take that incredibly seriously, because the second we don't is the second it all falls apart. And we disappoint a lot of people. And so that's important for everyone to know and live and breathe. It's not as much about beauty for us as it is about entrepreneurs.
So one of the things that you mentioned, just by doing my own research, you are very data driven. Like even the interviews I've listened to you do, presentations I see online, you know your numbers, right? What numbers do you think it is, what data points are extremely important for any entrepreneur to know in order to truly grow their business? And maybe you can talk about how you use data to help the whole StyleSeat brand grow.
Sure. So data is everything. It is the only thing. It is how you know if what you're doing is working. It's how you know if it's not working and what you need to do to fix it. We have right now top five metrics at the company. I show that to everyone in the business. It's actually displayed downstairs in the kitchen. And for us, those numbers are how many people are on StyleSeat, how many businesses, how much money are we spending every month, how much money are we making every month, how many new stylists are coming in, and how many stylists are we losing. And that is just like top five. It's no more, no less. The health of the business. Mm-hmm. And it helps everyone know, are we financially on a good track or not? Are we excited about the number of businesses we have, or do we have a problem? Like, are we bringing in enough new people? Are we losing too many? Helps everyone just sort of know at the end of the day, like these are the five numbers. It's different for every business and it changes. Like our top five have changed many times since we've launched. It really depends on the goal you're trying to achieve. And by the way, figuring out your top five is like one of the hardest things, because it makes you, in the beginning when you're starting a company, it's like, we want to do this and we want to do that. And I'm so excited about this. And if we could do that, then it would unlock this other thing. And you're just like, you're filled with possibility. And the most difficult thing you need to do is be ruthless and ruthlessly simplify to what's your first number, what's your second number, what's your third number. Like just knowing your couple of numbers that define the health of your business. And then maybe when you unlock this thing, you can start to focus on, you get to the next level and then you'll have a different 5 numbers. But that discipline is so incredibly important, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah, and I think it can be so hard, as you said, because even for this podcast, right? I've had it for a year and 3 months now, and it's just like figuring out what's going to take it to the next level. So in your StyleSeat story, what helped you get more users on the platform? Like, how did you guys actually push the brand up the hill and get it rolling on its own?
We have never done marketing at StyleSeat. It has always been word of mouth. And that is actually super rare and unique. Like, whenever you talk to companies, if they're like, how are you going to grow? And you're like, we're just going to grow organically. Like, you're never going to have another conversation with anyone in your life. That's really, really rare. And I think part of it is because stylists are talkers, right? They will tell you if they hate your product and their features. Like, they just throw fire at us constantly. And I literally love every single comment because I'm like, she's kind of right. Let's fix it. But they will also shower you with love if they feel like you've driven value. And I think because we focused on stylists and their needs and what they need to be successful, we have a lot of love from our community, and stylists tell other stylists, and stylists tell their clients to use us and to book with us. And so we've luckily been able to grow just from those 2 channels. That won't be how we grow forever. We're probably going to start running advertisement this year, but that has been how we've grown in the past.
So before StyleSeat was completely free, but you guys recently switched to your model where stylists have to pay a fee to use the platform. How did you navigate that change, and how have people reacted to that?
It was the hardest thing and the best thing. So we were 100% free for a lot of years, and it was great because a couple of months ago, 30% of all beauty professionals in the United States are on StyleSeat.
Wow.
Like, huge numbers. We did almost $2 billion in bookings last year. Like, completely crazy, bonkers numbers. The challenge, though, is that with any free product, you get the 80-20 rule. Right? 20% are going to be engaged in driving 80% of the value. And the other 80% are going to drive 20% of the value. They're going to be semi-engaged. And we saw that, right? We had a bunch of businesses that were just balling out and doing fantastic. And then we had a bunch of businesses that were half would set up online booking, but not all of their schedule, or they would only check it every 2 days, or they would kind of use us, but not really use us. And so as clients were booking with them, there were more challenges and double bookings and issues with payments processing and just tons of emails that were coming to our customer support team. And at that scale, I mean, $2 billion is a lot of appointments in beauty, right? Mm-hmm. At that scale, we either had to have a 400-person team and like scale it up and just really support this community, or we had to dramatically simplify. And I was too scared to do this for a long time, and I finally did it. We decided to charge for our services, so we didn't have free StyleSeat anymore. It was $35 a month. And there was screaming and upsetness and just like so much anger and all this crazy reaction. And I freaked out, and I'm like, my company's gone. It's just like had this, and I didn't want to charge them. It was like, oh my God, I was just.
But it's also evolved. Like this, the company had evolved, right?
100%. And look, we've raised a bunch of money. Like we need to make money at some point. It's not like the craziest thing in the world, but we ended up doing that. What happened was a bunch of businesses left us, but they were the businesses that were never really fully engaged. And the ones that had been engaged all along stayed, and we became almost profitable within like 2 months. It was crazy. And what more than anything it allowed us to do was have only businesses that were super engaged and really took care of their customers and really supported the StyleSeat brand and allowed us to support them. And what that meant is we just build features for them, and our customer support team just supports them. And so they get a better experience. And it ended up being so great for the business and for our community. And it was hard, but it was ultimately by far the best thing for the business.
And you know what? I think you can even liken that to other type of entrepreneurships, right? Like, you know how people are just giving away their services for free to people? Let's say you're a consultant and everyone gets that free 30-minute consultation. At some point, you have to start weeding out the people who are just sucking your time and energy. So it's also like that quote of saying, you know, charge what you're worth. And that you realize that you were worth it. And the people who knew your worth had no problem paying that $35 a month. They were even just saying, wow, finally, you know, I feel like that could be something as well. And it's funny because I had someone that I used to go to that used to braid my hair, and she used StyleSeat. And then I realized she didn't use it anymore. And she went back to using, like, you know, email me for appointments. And I think it also shows people who are not committed to investing in themselves. Because if I was a stylist, I would see StyleSeat as an investment in managing my clients. And that's just something that I think that it also can be an education point for people to realize, all right, at some point you need to invest in yourself if you want to make money. So, hey, that's their loss if they didn't want to pay it, if it was actually helping them.
Absolutely. And it allows us to say, you know, if you're booking with StyleSeat, you're booking with people that have their act together. You're booking with stylists that are good, and you know that because of the reputation they have on StyleSeat, and because you're going to have a great experience booking with them. They have their act together. And that's really important for the businesses, but also for the clients. So
as we wind down, Melody, I want to ask you this because I think it's important. You know, being a woman in the tech space, being a woman who has built a very successful business, how has it been for you personally, and how have you navigated some of the challenges that you may have faced over the years?
Oh,
that's such a loaded question, right? One thing you've learned being a woman in tech.
I have to say the biggest, like, if I were to look back and say, what's the one theme that has allowed you to keep going? Mm-hmm. I think it is being tenacious. Like, whatever hits you every day, crazy things are going to hit you. Like, it's easy. This drives me nuts about founders is they're just like, oh yes, things are fantastic. You know, like, no, I know the scoop about your company. Like, I see people in the press and I'm like, no, I know the deal about your company. Like, that has been hard. You've struggled. You've gone through ups. You've gone through downs. And it's so important to share that with people. And I always share the ups and the downs. I think it does a disservice to other potential founders, right, to just say that things are great. I think that the thing that has kept me going is just being tenacious. And whatever hits you, could be a big thing, could be a little thing, could be a million things throughout the day. Being cool with it, being like, all right, how are we going to handle this? Like, oh, giant crisis? Okay, great. How are we going to handle it? Oh, tiny little, like 14 tiny little crises. Great. Let's sit down. Let's figure it out. Like, just learning how to continue to roll with the punches and to do it with a smile and to, like, enjoy and, like, dive in to the constant crazy challenges and turbulence, because it's never going to stop. Learning how to, like, be cool with it and find your zen in all of the chaos, I think, is the number one thing I've learned.
And what's the best investment you've made in yourself as a business owner?
God, this might sound superficial, but a wardrobe. I think investing in, like, nice shoes and clothes that I feel really good in, so that I can, doesn't matter if it's a good day, bad day, if I'm doing a giant talk or if I'm just, like, at the office, you know, with my team, feeling really good and well put together, like, is something that's nice, because fashion is self-expression, and it is a way to feel fabulous and really nurture yourself and help you know that it's worth it. It's like, it's art, you know? That is something that because I am so practical. In the beginning, it was like, no, I can't possibly. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting them. Like, I'm going to feel fabulous in it. I'm going to wear it until it's dead. And like, I'm going to get so much joy out of this along the way. So I think that's mine.
Self-care is so important. So important.
Ugh.
So let's go into our lightning round, Melody. I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to tell me the first word that comes to mind, okay?
Okay.
And this is going to stick with our whole dreams and drive metaphor, so don't get thrown off.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
First word, park.
South Park?
Reverse.
Hate it.
Neutral.
Dying.
Drive.
Faster.
Okay, just the first one. The first one was a little off, but everything else was good. So if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So Melody, tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
Great question. I think you need to have a fantastic attitude. You have to be willing to work your ass off. And you have to love it. You have to love the struggle and love the daily challenges, because they will be numerous and unending. And that's the point. You know, the point isn't to like sell your company and be done with it. The point is to build something incredible. And so you have to love that it's really hard.
And what kind of legacy, like what do you want people to remember Melody for? Not StyleSeat, but Melody the individual.
I hope that I will have impact. I want to make impact, whether that's through my business. We help small business owners be more successful, feel fantastic about themselves, you know, grow their business, or even after this company, if I can continue to help people start companies, if I can inspire or help educate or support however I can, I love that. So if I can do that on a bigger level at some point in my career, that would make me so happy.
Well, thank you so much, Melody. I really hope that our dream drivers listening in got or took away so much from this episode as I did. I had so many more questions I could ask you. We would be here.
I talk a lot. Sorry.
No, we would be here for like another 2 hours. So I saved you from my incessant questioning. But can you tell our dream drivers where they can find you and StyleSeat online?
Absolutely. StyleSeat.com. And then on Instagram too. It's just StyleSeat.
All right. Thank you so much, Melody.
Cool. Thank you so much. Take care. This was fun.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 77 with Melody. I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing her dream driving story as well as her keys to success. And if you want to learn more about Melody or StyleSeat, just go to dreamsanddrive.com and click on episode 77 for the show notes. As always, I invite you to follow us on social at Dreams and Drive, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also use the hashtag Dreams and Drive too when you're engaging so you can go in and see what other people are saying about the shows as well. And if you really love this episode, if it's your first time listening, make sure you hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening, whether it be iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. Hit the subscribe button so that you get notified every time we have new episodes. So right now we're on the episode schedule of releasing every Monday and Thursday, so get those notifications because you don't want to miss what we have coming up. If you didn't listen to episode 76 with Efe Ukala, where she talks about how to make sure you have a strong legal foundation for your business, make sure you go ahead and do that. Now, episode 78 is going to be a treat. We're going to be speaking with Lauren B. Lore, who's going to talk all about being a woman in politics and business and all that stuff. So it's a change of pace, change of industries, but it's going to be a pleasure, and I know that you guys are going to enjoy listening to that one as well. Something I also want to say is thank you to all the dream drivers who filled out the listener feedback survey. I've had such a pleasure going through everyone's responses. I've even been able to talk to some of you guys. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Charlene, who I talked to this past week. It's been so humbling, and it's made me so happy to know that so many people are truly enjoying and finding value from the Dreams and Drive podcast. So I encourage you, if you ever have any feedback you want to send me, if you ever have guest suggestions, if you ever think you might be a good fit for the show, if you want to sponsor an episode, please feel free to email me, Raina, RANA, @dreamsanddrive.com. I answer emails. I see all emails. It may take me a while sometimes to get back to you, but I will get back to you, and I appreciate all the love that you guys send me. I'm going to keep saying that I can't believe I've made it to this point, because sometimes I really can't believe I have. I think I mentioned this on Instagram a few days ago about how the first month when I first started, I want to say the first 3 months, I was only averaging 950 downloads total for the month. And I thought that was popping. I'm like, oh my God, this is so big, right? And now I'm averaging over 22,000 downloads, total downloads per month. And that is something that I want anyone who's listening, who's scared to start, or who's in drive, who's in park, who's in neutral, reverse, and you think that it's not worth it, it is worth it. You just can't give up on yourself, because if I had given up on those months where I was only having, less than 1,000 downloads a month, then I wouldn't have gotten to this point. And I think something else is very important is also the importance of being consistent. You have to be consistent when it comes to your dream and your vision, because if you aren't, no one else will. So I think the fact that a lot of you are longtime Dreams and Drive listeners, you know that you're going to get a new episode every week. And if you didn't know you were going to get a new episode every week, if you did not trust me, you would not come back every week. So I thank you. I applaud you. I am truly honored that you guys are tuning in every week and more people are learning about the show, that you're telling people, that you're sharing the episodes. I am working on some cool things. A lot of you say you want some events, so I'm thinking about doing some New York events in the early or late spring, early summer. So just stay tuned. If anyone who's in the New York area has any ideas, has any event suggestions or event space suggestions, email me too. So yeah, I could talk forever, as a lot of you guys probably can tell from these podcasts. I hope that you guys have a great week. I hope that you are inspired. I probably said this 2 minutes ago, but keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 78. Bye, guys.